Good to go. Good morning. Excuse me. See if I can breathe, because you know I ran 20 miles this morning before I got here. Excuse me. So welcome to day 2 of the California Transportation Commission. Doug, will you take a roll call, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Bradshaw. Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Falcone.
Present.
Commissioner Grisby.
Present.
Commissioner Guardino.
He's present.
Commissioner Lugo. Commissioner Liu. Commissioner Martinez.
Present.
Commissioner Norton.
Present.
Commissioner Norton.
Present.
Commissioner Tavaloni.
No.
We see him logged on. He doesn't have his sound hooked up yet.
Okay.
So we're going to double check in with him.
Thank you.
Chair Eager.
Here.
Senator Newman. Assemblymember Friedman. Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Doug. So we will go back to item number 56 this morning, Sequoia. Oh, I forgot to read all the instructions that we need to know before we go to Sequoia. Sorry, Sequoia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome to day 2 of the May 2022 CTC meeting. For those participating online, please note you should be using a day 2 link for the meeting today. The links can be found on the first page of the meeting agenda. The meeting agenda can also be found under the Handouts tab or on our website. Live closed captioning and American Sign Language translations are being provided on the webinar for this meeting. You should be able to see the sign language translator on your screen, and the closed captioning can be accessed through a link on our commission meetings page. If you're interested, any document the CTC creates can be translated into any language you might need. Just simply email us at ctc@catc.ca.gov, and we will have them returned to you as quickly as possible. For our presenters, if you're on the agenda to make a presentation, please do your best to be succinct. Please remember to speak at a steady pace to allow our translating services adequate time for accurate translations. And if you're presenting remotely, we hope that you will turn on your camera during your presentation if you have one. For the members of the public, we welcome comments from the public as part of each item at this meeting. For those attending in person, please submit a speaker slip to the clerk at the front of the room, that's me, to let us know you want to comment on an item. For those attending via GoToWebinar, you should see the webinar control panel, likely located on the right-hand side of your screen. There you will find the raise hand feature as well as a questions tab. We encourage you to use the raise hand feature as early into the item as you can to give the system time to acknowledge you. Alternately, you may use the questions tab to submit a written comment. Please be sure to include the agenda item you are commenting on. Commission staff will read the comment on your behalf. As a reminder, each attendee is provided a unique link to access the webinar. These should not be shared with other participants, as they are registered to a specific attendee and can create confusion for staff when making comment. I will make the comment, we had 3 Minervas on yesterday, and we had 2 different wills. We had 2 District 3 directors were on twice, so it gets confusing for us when someone raises their hand and 3 of them have the same name. So please use your own links. For all meeting attendees, please do your best to be concise. Please make sure that your comments add new information. If you agree with the comment of a previous speaker, simply make that statement. Please remember to speak at a steady pace to allow our translating services adequate time for accurate translations. Since we often have many speakers, we ask that you make your point in 3 minutes or less. If for some reason we have many speakers on a topic, we reserve the right to limit comments to 1 minute if needed. You should see a timer on your screen when your comment begins. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Doug. Now, Sequoia, you're up.
Morning.
Commissioners, thanks so much for having us today. Delighted to share with you our tab 56, which features 2 important updates from some of our equity initiatives currently underway. First, we'll be joined by Jeannie Ward-Waller, Caltrans Deputy Director of Planning and Modal Programs, who will provide an update on statewide equity listening sessions. And following Jeannie's presentation, we'll have Tamika Butler, who will be joining us to provide their insights on the culmination of the Equity Advisory Roundtable series that wrapped up on April 29th of 2022. So with that, I will turn it to Jeannie. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Jeannie.
Thank you so much, Sequoia, and thank you, Chair and Commissioners. It's a pleasure to join you and see you, although you're very small on my screen. So sorry I'm not there with you in Fresno. I hope it's not too hot. It's going to be a hot one here in Sacramento. I am really excited to give you this update on our statewide equity listening sessions. As you all know well, we have kicked these off, so this is an exciting update. My last update, we were just getting ready for these, so we are now well underway with our equity listening sessions, and really just want to first start by appreciating the participation of the commissioners. Many of you have been very engaged in those, and so thank you so much for that. And I know the communities that we have that we've done these sessions with have really appreciated our strong engagement from all of our agencies. So go ahead to my first slide. Want to just share with you the schedule and remind you of the first 2 listening sessions we successfully completed in Kern County and Lake County in March and April. We also now have sessions scheduled. Those should hopefully be on your calendars already on June 8th in the Imperial Valley. And then we actually have 2 sessions. We're going to do a series. We're going to break up our sessions with the LA Portside communities on June 8th and June 15th. We still don't have dates set yet for the East Bay and Inland Empire sessions, but we are looking forward to getting those scheduled in mid to late June, so coming very soon. Go ahead to my next slide. And just to remind you of our priorities, planning priorities for these sessions. It's been really critical to have the partnership with community-based organizations and really co-leadership and co-development of the sessions with the expertise of those community leaders. We've also been ensuring that we are compensating those partners fairly based on the same compensation rates that we're offering to our consultants. We've been careful to try to work around the preferred schedule and meeting times of the CBOs. So thanks to all the state folks who have been participating. I know we've had some in the evening, some in the middle of the day. That is really geared towards trying to tailor the format to the community. And also really prioritizing the needs of the participants in each session. We've made the interpretation and language services really important, making sure that we are holding those meetings in the preferred language of most of the community members. That caused a little bit of challenge for us in that first session with Kern County, but again, I think that was really important and a good learning lesson for all of us that are used to attending meetings in our native language to really kind of wrestle through. Of course, along the way, we're trying to build trusted partnerships with the CBOs, respecting them and their work. And also with those communities that they work in. And then throughout, we want to be transparent. We want to make commitments to what we are there to do, to listen and hear from the community and document what we've heard, and then follow up to the extent we can and make sure that is very clear to the communities as we're engaging. Excuse me. Go ahead to my next slide. So I'm going to recap briefly the 2 sessions that we've already done. The first one was in Kern County with the focus on the communities of Arvin and Lamont. This was held virtually on March 24th. It was a roughly 2.5-hour session. We had about 30 residents and local leaders on the line, and it was the meeting was held and facilitated in Spanish with simultaneous English interpretation. Huge appreciation to the Center on Race, Poverty, and the Environment, who was our CBO partner leading that session. And just here on the slide, we're sharing a few of the things that we heard. We are fully documenting all of the comments we received, and we'll be including those in our final report. But there were definitely some themes that we heard from a number of the community members. So I won't read all those bullets, but definitely, concerns around pedestrian accessibility, around the quality of the infrastructure, things like rail crossings, freight and truck movement, and also, noise, air pollution, that communities feel like, they don't have a clear path to get addressed or identify the responsible agency to help address those concerns. Next slide, please. And then in Lake County, this is our second session, also held virtually on April 29th. This was in partnership with the Lake County Chamber of Commerce and also the Lake County Economic Development Corporation. We were specifically focused on the communities of Lakeport, Kelseyville, and Clear Lake. We had about 20 participants in this session representing community residents as well as some of the local transportation professionals in the community. This meeting was facilitated in English, but we did have simultaneous Spanish and ASL interpretation. And again, here are some of the themes we heard in the Lake County session. We heard from tribal members and their residents, seeking greater representation and inclusion. We heard about the lacking bus transit availability, some discussion about access to hospitals and healthcare for aging and disabled population in the area. So some similar concerns, some new ones, but really valuable to just hear directly from that community also. Next slide, please. So for our upcoming sessions, we committed to doing, reaching out and having these conversations with 6 different communities. So we've been, just continuously outreaching to community-based organizations in these areas. It has been a challenge, as I've shared with you before, these organizations have limited capacity. They're very stretched. So we are pleased and very grateful to the partners in Imperial and in the LA Portside community that we have been able to lock down dates for those. We're working in the Imperial Valley with Comité Cívico del Valle, and also we'll be joining an AB 617 Community Steering Committee meeting. That again is on June 8th. And in LA Portside, we're working with Los Angeles Walks and the Safe Street Promotora educators to host 2 virtual sessions with the LA Portside communities. So those will be on the 8th and the 15th. Those will be shorter individual sessions, but they're going to be sort of a series, again, deferring to the requests of the community. In Richmond, we're partnering with Groundwork Richmond to host hopefully an in-person listening session in the East Bay. We're really excited, hope we can pull that off logistically. Stay tuned for more details on that. And we've also just recently gotten an agreement with the Center for Community Action and Environmental Justice to work with us on the Inland Empire listening session. So really just pleased at how these are coming together. And I think it's been worth the extra time to really develop those deep partnerships. All right, last slide for me is just next steps. This is mostly a reminder for you, but we are committed to developing this actionable report. Our consultant ICF is helping pull that together, that will document everything we've heard from these sessions. We are committed to sharing that back with the community, making sure we confirm with them that what we're hearing, and also continuing to engage and build relationships in those communities. I know our Caltrans district staff are already following up with the communities that we've had listening sessions with so far, and we'll continue to do that for the future listening sessions as well, and hope that we can go back. I think for these sessions we've held virtually, we'd really like to make time to and do site visits and actually visit with the communities in person as the logistics allow. So stay tuned for more, but certainly this is really just the start of developing deeper partnerships and relationships with these communities. So with that, I will stop and pass it back to Sequoia.
Great, thank you. We have time for Q&A after this item if you want, if anyone has any questions before our next update.
Yes, Commissioner Liu.
Thank you, and thank you, Jeannie, for that update. I noticed something wasn't there, and that was an update on the Transportation Equity Index that you guys are working on. I was wondering if we could get an update on that. And I'm also specifically curious as to how it's going to be sort of based, whether it's going to be a geographic basis where you're going to use it to identify specific geographic areas that may then be used to say if there's a project in that geographic area, we need to be concerned about equity, or if you're going to develop it in a way, or both ways, that you can look at any specific project and say this one raises equity concerns because it has these characteristics. And I ask because when I was involved with the creation of Cal EnviroScreen, we knew right away that we couldn't come up with a perfect index. And the very first version of Cal EnviroScreen certainly had some problems, especially with border areas and the Bay Area. And it got better over time, and especially as the data there were more data available. But there's no perfect way of getting at this. And I do think that if we rely on only one and not some combination of geographic and project related ways of looking at equity index issues, I think we might be missing out. So that's the question. Sorry for being so long.
No, I appreciate that so much, Commissioner Liu. Your expertise and experience, I think, will be really valuable. So looking forward to talking to you more offline on this. But just to answer your question, we are making progress with the equity index. I just want to recognize and appreciate the team, Amar Sid and my team in our Caltrans Office of Race and Equity. We set that office up about a year ago, and we have tasked them with some really big, challenging things. But yes, we are making progress on the equity index, and it is geographic based. So we are using GIS, very similar to Cal EnviroScreen. We are looking at a different set of indicators, not entirely different. There's some overlap with EnviroScreen, but this really is intended to be a transportation equity index and help us focus in on those specific issues. So we're looking at metrics that are more specific to transportation than all of the metrics that are used in EnviroScreen. But it is a similar tool at this point. And I think the questions that you're raising get at not just, what is the tool going to help us see, but also how do we then use the tool? And so we very much are having, we're doing concurrent work and developing guidance for our project teams for how they use the tool, the equity index that, we hope to put in place in the coming months. But how do they apply that in a project context? So the tool does not save you doing the work of actually going out and understanding the specific localized context of the project and working with the community, engaging with the community and doing that planning work. So I think the points that you're making are more specific to sort of that piece that, understanding that very localized need and issues. But would love to, get your thoughts and expertise on, whether there's a way to incorporate that more into the equity index itself, because we are still just in the development stage, and we'll be going out to do public workshops very soon. So we're just at the phase of starting to get that input, and we'd appreciate that from you.
Great, thank you. I said I had the questions, but not the answers. So, but I will talk with you about it. Thank you.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Jeannie. Nice to see you. Question about the Lake County slide, I think it's slide number 5. So reference to unsafe conditions created by limited narrow corridors. Could you clarify further what that means?
So let me just say, Commissioner Grisby, we recorded the sessions. We're going to document literally every word that we heard in those sessions and make sure that we're capturing the comments accurately. And I'm trying to recall this now from memory because I don't have more detail on this point in my notes. So let me follow up if I don't get this right. But my recollection, these communities, there are state highways going around both sides of the lake, of Clear Lake there, and on both sides there are sort of local Main Street type communities that these state highways run through, and so there are some limitations. There is truck traffic traveling in those highways, and there are places where there aren't great sidewalks, not great crossings. So there's just quite a bit. There's sort of that balance, right? We see this a lot of in local rural communities where there's this highway throughput coming through this little community, but then you also have a main street of a community there. And so how do you balance those issues? And that came up quite a bit in discussion. People are trying to walk to get to transit maybe, but there's not really a great place along the highway for them to walk. And yeah, just again, balancing the kind of throughput and the interregional travel happening through that corridor with the needs of the local residents that, that's their community, is a challenge. And that came up quite a bit.
All right, thank you. Yeah, it sounds like it's more like a making the roadway useful and safe for all users, perhaps.
Exactly. Yep. That's my understanding.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think you mentioned it, Jeannie, but the future meetings, will they be hybrid so that there'll be in person and online?
So, Chair Eager, it's my understanding that the Imperial Valley session, which is the one coming up next on June 8th, will be just virtual. That is, we are joining an AB 617 steering committee meeting. So it is an existing meeting based on the CARB air protection program. And so I at this point, I think we are planning to hold that only in virtual, in a virtual space. I got to look at my slide now so I get this exactly right. So the Portside community, that one will also be virtual. We're going to do that in a series. So those will be 2 separate meetings on June 8th and June 15th, and those will both be virtual. It's the Richmond session where the community organization is really interested in trying to do in person, and that date is not confirmed yet. But if we can, we are going to try to figure out the logistics to actually do it in person to honor the community. So we can look into a hybrid option if that's important for people to also be virtual. But the community has really asked for us to be there in person with them. So let me follow up on that as we get that date kind of closer to nail down and see what we can offer in terms of a hybrid option.
Okay, thank you. I know with these issues that are so important and across the state, so many places that have, for lack of a better word, poor broadband, and people not being able to log in and participate, folks that we really want. I think these in-person options are something that we should certainly strive for so that we can get a cross-section of people who want to participate.
if I could just jump in kind of and follow up to Commissioner Liu's question, perhaps we can get an update on the equity index at our June meeting.
Absolutely. I'll work with Sequoia.
Any other questions for Jeannie? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
think we'll move on to Tamika, yes?
Yeah, great. Thank you, Jeannie, for those updates. Really looking forward to continuing to work with you on the next round of sessions. Next, we'll be joined by Equity Advisory Roundtable member Tamika Butler, who will provide us with our final roundtable update. Thanks so much for being here, Tamika. I'll turn it to you.
Of course, thanks so much for having me. Good morning, commissioners. I had the absolute privilege to be a colleague with some of you, and it's good to be back. I also had a privilege to serve on this body, this roundtable, as staff thought about how they could conceptualize an interagency transportation equity advisory committee. And over the course of several months, we got to meet virtually and get to know each other and advise staff. And so I think it's really important to start there with staff. Sequoia, Avital, Amar, and Jeannie, amongst other staff, were present, were responsive, were ridiculously kind and thoughtful, and a big part of making this whole process work. I think that at the core, sometimes folks want to do things and make things more equitable, and so they're very external facing in trying to do that work. And something I really appreciated as part of this roundtable is that you know, these statewide big organizations also looked internal and made sure they had the right folks on the team, the right folks leading the work. And so first, just a thank you to staff who were phenomenal. As we wrapped up this adventure together, a couple of things really stood out. You know, I think the members of the roundtable, one of our biggest concerns is no matter what the final body is or process is, or frankly work or policies, how do you integrate information and feedback? And you heard Jeannie talk a bit to that, even when you're going out to public meetings. But I think that's something that came up over and over again in the roundtable. When you get information from people, whether they, you know, have been nominated or appointed to an official body, or whether they're just community members showing up and giving of their time to make their communities better, how do you make sure folks know that they were heard? And what is that feedback loop? And how do you go back to folks, right? So I think that was a big part of it. How do you, one, build trust? How do you have transparency? But then how do you have this feedback loop? The other piece is, as this interagency body is put together, how will the agencies work together, right? A lot of folks are interested in community engagement and sometimes think just because you talk to people, it'll make everything better. But what a lot of us have seen doing this work in the field is, even if you're talking to community and have strong community partnerships, have a strong equity advisory group of folks who you can talk to, if behind the scenes the agencies haven't figured out how to make it work, then that can be really frustrating. Even though folks feel like engagement is happening, it feels like, well, what's going on behind the scenes, and why haven't people figured it out? And the last thing I'll say, you know, that really came out of this is compensation. How do you respect member expertise and time commitment? How do you respect what they're telling you and be very clear about what the expectations are and what level of influence they're going to have in policy and program development? What is that really going to look like? And then what we all loved about this roundtable is geographically, demographically, expertise-wise, we were a really diverse group. And even then, there were still comments about what was missing. Did we need more folks who had a better understanding of Indigenous communities, both Indigenous communities that are recognized and not recognized? Do we have enough folks who understood disability rights? Do we have any folks who understand the issues facing unhoused people, right? And how do these intersections come together? And so as this new body is formed, and most certainly, having people who represent housing, climate justice, mobility justice, all of those things are important, but how do these other issues intersect? And so I think I'll stop there. I think I'm at time, and I know we're supposed to be succinct, but I just, again, wanna give all praise to the staff, and then my fellow roundtable members who also showed up, were engaged, were prepared, and frankly, were really representing the communities that they were from. And it was a true pleasure to be a part of this experience. And so with that, Sequoia, I will pass it back to you.
Thank you so much, Tamika. We also have time for questions on this update. So if commissioners or anyone has questions, please feel free.
Great, thank you. And thank you so much, Tamika, for your dedication and your insights. Please know how much we appreciate all of your work. And I think Commissioner Norton, you had a comment?
I did. First of all, it's so great to see you, former Commissioner Butler, as someone who had the honor of getting a chance to serve with you and hearing your brilliance and advocacy while on this body. It just means so much that you continue to serve and help inform our work. So let me start with that. I wanted to make sure that as we're looking at the getting guidelines back from the Justice 40 initiative and how that is going to affect opportunities for funding federally and with our state funds, it seems like this is a great time to incorporate what we're learning from these equity roundtables into the ways in which we're going to develop projects that serve the community and are really community focused and community originated. And I just wanted to ask Mitch how we're going to look at the Justice 40 guidelines, which are still coming, and we've been asking Caltrans and Secretary Omashakin about when those guidelines are coming, and how we can look at what sorts of projects are being suggested by the equity roundtables, and then how we incorporate those into projects that would be really competitive nationally and statewide and feed into the goals of serving the Justice 40 initiative.
So I think this is a similar question to how we're looking at all the federal guidance and how we're competing with everything. Right? We're trying to figure out how we best align the state and take the federal guidance when it comes out with what we're trying to achieve in California. And equity, just like the goals of some of the other new federal competitive programs, are very much in line with where the state is trying to go. So I think we'll be able to do it. I think we're able to achieve good results with it, but we can't do a lot until we know what the guidance is.
Mm-hmm. And I think the same is true as we're looking at additional ATP money. Clearly, as we're looking at the feedback in it, as I was participating in these equity meetings, safety for biking and walking was really a prime issue. So it's helpful that as we're talking about the ATP guidelines and additional funding, that this really is a great time to coordinate all of the feedback we're getting to seeing these new projects that can actually address it in real time. Because former Commissioner Butler is right in saying what's going to really matter about these processes is whether people see results on the ground. So I want to thank you for that.
Any other commissioners have comments or questions? Yes, Commissioner Martinez.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Ms. Butler, for your dedication and the rest of the folks from that participated. I definitely agree with you 100% on the feedback loops. I think it's imperative for us to also, because I think what Tamika was saying, and we've heard continuously in regards to as it pertains to the equity sessions, there's a difference between co-production and co-creation. And, and who's leading, right? Is it government or is it community? So if we really want to engage community and ensure that their expertise is being utilized, we have to put aside our current guidelines and rules of how we engage from a community perspective, because as I said yesterday, and I think when we use this word, these two words, we tend to specifically hear one size fits all. And I'm definitely in agreement that there isn't a one size fits all. But under this scenario, I think it's imperative to understand that every community that we're dealing with is a little different. And we talked about the Native American community, and I participated in some of the equity sessions and what I can tell you in the 3 that I did participate in, they were all very different. They all had different concerns and issues. And so as we move forward, and I know we're jotting those down, but what is that process going to look like? And is this body going to be part of the co-production, not just about the design of what this is going to look like? Because then, I'm going to be quite honest with you, they're wasting their time and energy. And these are folks that provide valuable information within their communities. They're on the ground. They're taking a localized approach. And so I hope that as we continue to move through this process, and I think staff has done an amazing job, and I want to thank Sequoia and others, but just keep in mind that as we move forward, we just can't continue status quo, because if we're just going to, emphasize equity and not really giving them the opportunity to lead, again, what is this really going to mean? And so where we're at this moment in time, I do thank them. I do thank them for their feedback and for their honesty, because they are speaking truth to power. And I understand changing cultures within government is not easy, but if there's ever been a time to do so, it's now. It's imperative as we're dealing with climate, we're dealing with transportation issues, we're dealing with housing issues, we're dealing with water issues. This is the time to put community at the center, not government and its old bureaucracies. And so I know I'm very blunt at this moment in time, but I think this is the time to be blunt and speak truth to power of how government functions. So with that, Tamika, thank you so very much for your presentation and the rest of those who were committed through this process.
Thank you, Commissioner. If I may, I would just say I agree with you 100%. And I think we would be making a real mistake and be a bit behind the curve if we tried to approach this work and say we need to be culturally competent. Being culturally competent at this point is a minimum. And I think something you said is important. We need to be culturally specific. We need to realize that each of these communities are different. We need to share the power and really let people lead and have some self-determination and what their communities look like. And we need to value them as the experts they are. And that means sometimes that you don't have your little kit that you pull out at every meeting and everything's exactly the same. But being specific and really, really listening and centering people. And I'll just, the last thing I'll say is, when we as Roundtable members, and I know it is the same in the community, when we had commissioners come to those meetings, when we hear impassioned, comments like you just made, that we feel like, yes, that's what we've been saying, and seeing someone who is in this position be aligned with us and saying those things, it matters. And so, I thank staff, I thank my other Roundtable members, but we also appreciate it and valued the commissioners who took part of that process with us. And I would just say that I think sometimes people are afraid to participate in these equity matters because they don't want to say the wrong thing. They don't want to get it wrong, or because they're relying on women and people of color to do that work. And sometimes that's well-intentioned, they think they need to take a step back. But the reality is this is work for all of us. And just because you let community lead, just because you let certain communities lead, doesn't mean you get off the hook and you don't get to do the work. And so, just deep gratitude for the commissioners who have been very engaged and committed to this work as well.
Commissioner Grisby?
Good morning, Tamika. Nice to see you. Question, because I really like the idea of getting to this feedback loop idea, and I think it's one of the key questions that a lot of American institutions are dealing with. How do we take the learnings of the last 2 years and use it to perfect our democracy? So I like to get into some specificity about maybe 2 or 3 things we could utilize and do as commission to establish better feedback loops, just from your point of view. Thank you.
Yeah, great question, Commissioner Grigsby. Good to see you as well. You know, I think one of the things that we heard a lot on this roundtable, and going back to that comment that every community is different, is for one, ask people. What could we do that could make this information more accessible? You know, and sometimes it's going to be things that are just a baseline, right? You go to your website, you are able to find materials, meetings are publicly noticed, you're translating things into Spanish, all of these things that are kind of just a baseline. But how do you go to community members and instead of saying, what do you need, you know, be really clear, like, we're posting all of our things online. Is that helpful? Do people know about that? How should we get this information to you? So one, I think sometimes it's just asking people. That's always a good place to start when you don't know what's happening. I think it's also trusting staff, staff that's on the front lines, that's doing this every day. You know, I would hate to be a roundtable member and say, you must do it this way. I think staff, particularly, as I said, the staff you have working on these issues are really, really sharp and really on top of it. I think also transportation, for good or bad, you know, is still viewed as this thing that's kind of happening in the background. Like, most people don't notice transportation until something goes wrong. And so how can there be more proactive engagement and meeting people where they are? And sometimes meeting people where they are means going into the community, and sometimes meeting people where they are is using more social media, using more ethnic media sources, having, you know, putting people out there to get on radios and do different things. And so again, you know, it'll be different from community to community, but I think we have to get away from our assumptions about how people consume information, get away from doing just what the law requires us to do, and really trust staff and give them the resources and the understanding that it's going to take some different ways to approach people. And you know, something I've been saying for the last couple of years is we had an election during a pandemic, and we had an election where more people turned out than ever before. So we've figured some ways out to get to reach people and to talk to people. And so sometimes some of the solutions we need, we might not be able to find them neatly packaged in the transportation space, but we shouldn't be afraid to go out to other folks who get it right and utilizing some of those best practices.
All right, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. And, you know, it reminded me that sometimes the minimum, right, that's required is community outreach. That's completely different than community engagement. And we have to make sure we get back to this has to be community engagement. We have to find a way to reach people that we haven't before. And I know that's certainly something that you and your group have been doing, and we appreciate it. I think Commissioner Falcone, did you have a comment, question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Tamika. Everything that you've said and how you've addressed our comments and questions are just spot on. You know, I've been a broken record on commenting about all the work that you're all doing. It's so important. Kudos to Sequoia and the team for all the work that you've done with the advisory members in this group. I've seen your colleagues in San Diego that have served on this group, and you know, I look at them as family members because of the impassioned work that they've done on behalf of communities, and I've enjoyed listening and participating on the working group meetings. I want to honor something that you said about compensation. I know it's something that has been commented quite a bit by the group, and we recognize all the work and the value, and there's not enough compensation monetarily that we could, you know, that we could offer But how can we as a commission support or memorialize our support for continuing this work and compensating justly for the work ahead? And then that's one question. And then I just want to underscore Commissioner Norton's comments on guidelines. I think that is really where I'm excited to see, all the work that you've done and the feedback that you've provided really, being implemented in a really meaningful way in the work that we do collectively. So I just want to underscore and support what Commissioner Norton said about, how we incorporate all the work in how we evaluate projects moving forward. But I want to go back to the compensation if there's staff that can answer or address that.
Yes, there is. So this is something we pushed on. We've been able to secure some funding through a grant from the Resources Legacy Fund for the Roundtable members, but that's not a long-term solution. And so we've had conversations with the administration on the importance of this and trying to figure out with them a way to do it. This is an issue that the commission is, I think, is a little bit in the front of, but it has a broader statewide implication, and that's why it's moving a little slower. I think this is something we need to be vocal about in our annual report about to our recommendations to the legislature and the administration about the need for this compensation, because we're asking people for their time here. Frankly, we have other advisory commissions where people have donated their time. You shouldn't have to do that. It shouldn't cost you money to be helping the public and giving us the advice we need.
Thanks, Mitch. Is there a mechanism by which we can formally articulate that support via, is it a letter or resolution or a budget change proposal, correct?
Yes, so we submitted a budget change proposal. It was not successful. And so we will continue that process. And we will, as I said, I think the next thing is to have a conversation in our annual report about the importance of it. But the concern is that it's a larger statewide issue. It's not just the commission. But I would say it is one of those things. It is in line with what the governor wants to do and his equity focus. And if you look at the total cost, it's not a big cost. It's an important thing to do, and it's a statewide. It's not a lot of money, but to these people doing it, it is very important. And so I think we're all in support of it. I think everybody I've talked to is in support of. They just need to figure out a way to get there, and so we're working on that.
Thanks, Mitch.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate all the great information and all the great work that you're doing.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Tamika. And Chair Eager, if you don't mind, I have a couple of wrap-up points to make, and then I'll be done with this item.
Of course.
Great,
Floor is
thank
yours.
you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much to Jeannie and Tamika for joining us for today's equity updates. It's very apparent that there is a lot on the horizon and a lot of work and good work for us to do together. So we really appreciate the time and dedication that we've had on the floor today, as well as in our collaborative efforts. And as we close out the Equity Advisory Roundtable and transition to the Interagency Equity Advisory Committee, I want to extend my sincere gratitude to the Roundtable members and our colleagues and the executive teams at CalSTA and Caltrans for your insights, your time, your dedication to the development of our future Equity Advisory Committee structure proposal that we're in development. The proposal will be introduced to the Commission in June, and I want to reiterate that we are working very, very hard to address several of the needs that were mentioned here today, including the need for accountability from our agencies in the development of a committee that extends beyond performative allyship and, in the words of Dr. Destiny Thomas, moves at the speed of trust. Additionally, we're committed to finding ways to provide transparency around how recommendations from the committee will be considered, and developing mechanisms that can ensure that committee members can be fairly compensated for their time and expertise while serving in leadership roles. The proposal is in active development, and we look forward to sharing our ideas with you all soon at the June meeting. We're very excited to stand this committee and continue the work of advancing transportation equity goals within our 3 state agencies and beyond. So thank you very much, and that's the end of my item.
Thank you, Sequoia. We look forward to seeing what you have to bring in June. Appreciate it. Now we will return to item number 67. Tim?
Morning, Commissioners. Item 67 is an action item for a permanent restoration project on Interstate 405 in Los Angeles County, requesting a supplemental allocation of $4,995,000 to award the project. The project was advertised in December of 21 with a bid opening in January of 22. The project received 6 bids, of which the lowest eligible bidder was 38% above the engineer's estimate. One of the main components in this project is to restore the eroded steep roadway cut slopes with vegetation using steel netting. The installation of the netting requires extensive labor due to limited access to the project site. The main cause of the increased cost is due to the unit price to supply and install the steel netting, which was significantly higher than the engineer's estimate in all the bids. Caltrans has evaluated the bids and feels requesting supplemental funds to award the project is in the best interest of the state to avoid delays and potentially increased costs in implementing this important permanent restoration project. Staff has reviewed the project and the request and recommends approval for this item.
Do we have any public comment?
We have no public comment at this time. Thank you.
Any questions from commissioners? Then I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Do I have a second? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item 68.
Item 68 is an action item for a bridge rehabilitation project on US 101 in Marin County, requesting a supplemental allocation of $1,160,000 in construction support to complete construction. The increase in construction support is due to a number of conflicts, redesign, delays, and additional coordination with the city that were not anticipated. In addition, due to some of the delays, certain in-water work had to be delayed until a second season, requiring additional resources to coordinate with resource agencies, the contractor, and to maintain the site during the winter suspension. Staff has reviewed the project and the request and recommends approval for this item.
Do we have any public comment?
No public comment at this time. Thank you.
I believe Director Weiss, you have a comment, question, concern, statement?
I believe I did. Tim, is this the one you and I chatted about, the bridge deck thickness? Do I have that right?
That is correct.
So as I understood it, the contractor did not correctly review the as-built designs and so made an error, and now the state is having to pay additional funds in support costs because of that contractor error. So is there any way that, I mean, it doesn't seem like we should have to pay if the contractor makes a mistake. Is there any way to not have us have to pay for this? Mr. Keck?
Yeah, thank you, Mitch. I was going to ask to speak on that. So I don't want to infer any knowledge or action on the part of the contractor, right? I mean, you're making an inference there, but I don't want to talk about a specific project. This is still underway. I don't want to influence the project. It might be inappropriate to talk about specific things, but in general, where it's warranted, we do seek contractual avenues to recoup costs for delay that is on the part of the contractor. But there's a lot of moving parts to something like this, right? There's weather delays, which are not the fault of the contractor. There's permit windows to contend with. Oftentimes you have the needs of the community that might make you change what you're doing. So, and we take all that into account. This is all laid out in our contracts itself. We're familiar with those contracts. Our contractors are too. So in cases where it's warranted, there's liquidated damages that we can and will go after.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Just in reading the description, it seems pretty clear that the contractor was unprepared to handle the situation that was described in the as-built. So I look forward to learning at some future point in time what actually happens.
So take him out, show him how it works. That's what I heard. Here. Did we vote on this one?
Staff has reviewed the project and the request and recommends approval of the item.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Falcon moves.
Falcone
Norton
moved
seconds.
and Norton seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 69.
Item 69 is an action item for a bridge rehabilitation project on State Route 99 in Tulare County, requesting a supplemental allocation of $244,000 in construction support to close out the project. Please note there is a yellow replacement book item as identified on the change list. After the initial allocation, it was determined that construction support had been under-resourced for the final scope of the work. Caltrans has received $366,000 of delegated G12 funding to address most of the shortfall and is requesting $244,000 to administer the remaining work of the project and to complete all activities to close out the project. Staff has reviewed the project and the request and recommends approval for this item.
Do we have any questions? If I could just say, District 6, we appreciate it when you lower the cost. We like that when you're asking for less money. So thank you. Any public comment?
I see no public comment for this item.
I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move approval. Norton.
Second, Martinez.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 70.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tab 70 is an action item for the Transit Intercity Rail Capital Program. The supplementary request of $4,600,000 is for the environmental phase of the Northern California Corridor Enhancement Program project, the South Bay Connect component, located in Alameda and Santa Clara counties. The cost increases are related to the environmental phase of the State Route 84 Ardenwood Intermodal Bus Facility subcomponent. When the South Bay Connect component was initially scoped, the environmental clearance for the subcomponent project was assumed to be included in the environmental phase. As the environmental phase progressed, it was determined that the subcomponent should be environmentally cleared separately. The supplemental funds are needed to complete the environmental phase of the State Route 84 Ardenwood Intermodal Bus Facility subcomponent project. To support the increase, the agency will decrease construction of the South Bay Connect project. Construction will be supplanted with other sources of funds. Staff has reviewed this request and recommends your approval.
Do we have any public comment?
I see no public comment for this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Mitch?
Yeah, I have some questions, not so much about this particular request, but reading this request, it generated a lot of questions. So I hope we have someone from Caltrans on, Kyle, to answer some questions about the program.
Kyle was on the webinar. It currently looks like he's offline.
Okay, so we'll do a general call out to Caltrans and see if anybody raises their hand to answer the question. So I was very surprised in reading this that this project did not have a completed project initiation document at the time of programming. And when we went back to look at the guidelines, when the program first started, that the program required a project study report or equivalent prior to programming. And that's a document that outlines the preliminary cost scope and schedule before you get into environmental. And that's required in all the commission programs that we adopt guidelines for. And I was surprised to see that while that was in the guidelines in 2015, that had been removed in subsequent rounds of the guidelines. So I wanted to find out why Caltrans. Okay, secondly, I will suggest that in June, we bring back, we have an allocation policy because we don't develop guidelines. We bring back in June our allocation policy for this program to make it clear that we will not allocate funds to projects that have not completed a project study report or equivalent. Is that okay, Teresa? Okay, she gave me a thumbs up. Okay, thank you.
Tab 71 is an action item for the Transit Intercity Rail Capital Program. The supplemental request of $525,000 is for the right-of-way phase of the Southern California Optimized Rail Expansion SQUARE project, the El Monte Siding and Station Improvements component located in Los Angeles County. The additional funds are needed because property appraisers were higher than expected. The increase is supported by funds previously programmed for construction. The redirection of funds will not impact construction as savings were identified during design. Staff has reviewed this request and recommends approval.
I didn't move on. I didn't say it. Wasn't me.
Oh, sorry.
We're gonna take a 5-minute break right here. We'll have a bio break for just a minute. We'll be right back.
Might not get another one until after lunch.
Okay. I didn't know, I mean, I actually was a little worried, like, we were gonna need to have a break. That's fine. Oh, really? Fabulous. God, thank you.
Hmm? We did not.
Thank you all. We're back and we will go back to item number 70. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Norton.
It was moved by Commissioner Norton, seconded by Commissioner Liu. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we're at 71. Monica, did you already make your presentation on that one? Did we jump the gun there? I think you're muted.
Sorry. Yes, I had made the presentation. Sorry, I jumped it.
Do we have any questions for Monica on 71? Do we have any public comment?
No, we do not have any public comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to approve Martinez?
Second, Norton.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 72, you're back on, Monica.
Thank you. Tab 72 is an action item for the Transit Intercity Rail Capital Program. The supplemental request of $550,000 is for the right-of-way phase of the Southern California Optimized Rail Expansion SCORE project, Marengo Siding Improvements Component, located in Los Angeles County. The additional funds are needed because property appraisals were higher than expected. The increase is supported by funds previously programmed for construction. The redirection of funds will not impact construction as savings were identified during design. Staff has reviewed this request and recommends approval.
I see no public comment at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Motion?
So moved, Grisby.
Commissioner Grisby moved, Liu second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. 63. Oh, 73. No, don't go back to 63. I'm going to start over today. No, 73. Thank you, Monica.
Tab 73 is an action item for the Transit Intercity Rail Capital Program. The supplemental request of $190,000 is for the construction phase of the Electrify Anaheim, changing the transit paradigm in Southern California project, the procurement of zero emission electric buses component located in Orange County. The additional funds are needed to purchase hardware that will be installed in the 40 buses purchased as part of the project. The hardware will communicate with the charge management system infrastructure to monitor the health of the battery and the state of charge. This will assist with prioritization of charging and plan the time of charging, which impacts the energy grid. Staff has reviewed this request and recommends approval.
I see no public comment at this time.
Any
Motion to
questions?
approve Martinez?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 75, Lori. What the heck? Okay, John, 74.
Hurt my feelings. 74 is an action item to approve amendments to the 2022 SHOP. As noted on the change list, one of the proposed new projects has been withdrawn. And so with that change, these SHOP amendments will add 36 new projects to the 2022 SHOP and will also revise 35 projects that are currently programmed in the 2022 SHOP. Of the 36 new projects that are being added, 27 of them are major damage projects using the major damage reservation. 6 are safety projects using the collision reduction reservation. 2 are Americans with Disabilities Act accessibility projects using the mandates reservation. And 1 is a relinquishment project for the 710 stub relinquishment using the mandates reservation. Staff has reviewed these amendments and finds that they are consistent with the SHOP guidelines as well as with the Transportation Asset Management Plan and recommends approval of this item.
Move approval, Norton.
Second, Grisby.
Do we have any public comment?
I see no public comment at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Now we will move to 75.
Okay, Commissioners, tab 75 is an action item to consider an active transportation program scope amendment for the City of National City's 8th Street
and Roosevelt Avenue Active Transportation Corridor Project in San Diego County. This project was programmed in cycle 4 of the ATP for $5.2 million in ATP funds. The overall purpose of the project is to provide active transportation facilities that will connect the downtown of National City with the waterfront, major destinations, the 8th Street trolley station, the working waterfront, and the Navy base. The book item details all the individual items being changed on this project, but the main revision is that the project originally proposed one-way class 4 bike lanes on each side of 8th Street. The city is now proposing to replace this with a two-way multi-use path on the north side of 8th Street. The city is asking to make this change because a revised design will better fit what the community wants and will provide a continuous travel path for pedestrians and bicyclists from the Roosevelt Avenue shared use path across 8th Street to the Bayshore Bikeway, which ended at 8th and Harbor. This revision will also remove conflicts for bicyclists and pedestrians when crossing 8th Street. Caltrans performed an engineering assessment of the updated scope and has determined that the changes will result in an overall increase to the active transportation benefits of the project as compared to the original scope. Commission staff agrees with this assessment and in addition believes that the updated scope fulfills the intent of the original project submitted by National City. Based on these reasons, staff recommends approving the scope amendment for the National City, 8th Street, and Roosevelt Avenue Active Transportation Corridor Project in San Diego County.
Do you have any public comment?
No public comment at this time.
Commissioners? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Falcone moves.
That was Commissioner Falcone moving and Commissioner Liu second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 76, Monica?
Item 76 is an information item. This item is a notice of program of projects for the Small Urban and Rural Federal Transit Administration Section 5310 Enhanced Mobility for Seniors and Individuals with Disabilities Program. This program provides financial assistance for nonprofit organizations to purchase transit capital equipment to meet the specialized needs of elderly and disabled individuals. This notice of the program of projects precedes an appeals hearing on June 1st at 10 a.m. The hearing is for agencies who wish to dispute the results of their application. At the June Commission meeting, we will have two items for the 5310 program: a public hearing that is required by the law and the adoption of the program of projects. That concludes the information item, and I will answer any questions that you may have.
Do you have any public comment?
No public comment at this time.
I believe this was the item that I did have comment on before, was that we shouldn't have 65 as elderly, right? Was that- Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Okay, thank you so much, Monica. We will move to 77, Anya.
Thank you, commissioners. Tab 77 is an action item to amend the local partnership formulate program. The 7 recommended amendments will add the Santa Rosa Purchase Zero Emission Bus Project in Sonoma County and program $551,000 to the construction phase in fiscal year 2022-23. And add the Division 4 guard booths and gates replacement project in Alameda County, programming $444,000 to the construction phase in fiscal year 2022-23. Add the Division 6 security enhancements phase 2 project in Alameda County and program $417,000 to the construction phase in fiscal year 2022-23. Add the purchase 21 zero emission forklifts project in Alameda County and program $417,000 to the construction phase in fiscal year 2021-22. And amend the Metro Red and Purple Line Core Capacity Improvements Project in Los Angeles County and add $2,083,000 to the construction phase in fiscal year 2022-23 for a total programmed amount of $39,589,000. In addition, amend the Samtrans Purchase 30 Buses project in San Mateo County and add $59,000 to the construction phase in fiscal year 2021-22 for a total programmed amount of $1,227,000. And finally, add $318,000 in supplemental funding to the construction phase in fiscal year 2021-22 to the Avenue 7 Road Rehabilitation Project in Madera County. With these amendments, 170 projects totaling $583 million have been programmed since the implementation of the local partnership formulaic program. This action leaves $89 million of the 2020 local partnership formulaic program funding available for programming through June 30, 2023. Staff has reviewed these amendment requests and they are consistent with the local partnership formulaic program guidelines and policies, and staff recommends your approval.
Do we have public comment?
I see no public comment at this time.
Any questions from commissioners? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved, Grisby.
Do I have a second? Second, Falcone. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Anya, you're up again.
Thank you, Chair. Tab 78 is an action item requesting the allocation of $318,000 in local partnership formulaic funding for the Avenue 7 Road Rehabilitation Project in Madera County. Staff recommends your approval.
No public comment at this time.
Any questions from commissioners? Do I have a motion? Commissioner Liu moved, Commissioner Norton second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. All right, item 79, Teresa.
Commissioners, agenda item 79 is an action item. This is a request to approve a project list for the Federal Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act of 2021, otherwise known as the CRISA program. The project list consists of 49 projects to 46 local agencies, totaling approximately 18 million, as shown in attachment A. The CRISA program guidelines require regions to submit to the Commission a project list for approval prior to the obligation of funds. Staff has reviewed the list and the request and finds it consistent with the guidelines, and staff recommends your approval.
I see no public comment.
Motion to approve, Martinez.
Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Item 80, Beverly.
Commissioners, tab 80 is an action item to approve the annual allocation of $3,446,000 for the waterborne ferry program for fiscal year 22-23. Please note that the allocation request is $20,000 less than the amount indicated in the current version of the budget. The budget request will be revised to reflect the allocation amount. This allocation is contingent on the passage of the state budget, and staff recommends approval.
I see no public comment for this item.
Any questions from commissioners? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved, Grisby.
Grisby moved. Second, Falcone. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're back to what the heck, John?
Item 81 is an action item for shop construction allocations. This item will allocate $153,872,000 for 27 shop projects. These 27 projects will improve 19 bridges, 19 lane miles of pavement, 31 culverts, 120 TMS elements, and many other important improvements to help preserve and protect our state highway system. Staff has reviewed this allocation request and recommends approval of this item.
Motion to approve.
Vice Chair Gardino moved. Do I have a second? Second, Lou. Do we have any public comment?
I see no public comment for this item.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
All right. Item 82 is an action item for shop pre-construction support allocations. This item will allocate $73,246,000 for 66 shop pre-construction phases for PA&ED, PS&E, and right-of-way support. Staff has reviewed this allocation request and recommends approval of this item.
Public comment?
No public comment for this item.
Any commissioners have questions? I'll entertain a motion. Moved by Commissioner Norton, seconded by Commissioner Falcone. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair. Item 83 is another action item for SHOT pre-construction support allocations. These pre-construction support allocations are different than the previous pre-construction support allocations in that these allocations are all for the P&ED phase for new 2022 SHOT projects that were just adopted at the March 2022 Commission meeting. These projects are all requesting a P&ED allocation for the exact same amount that was programmed at the time of adoption. As noted on the change list, a pink replacement book item was distributed for this item. The dollar amount and number of projects did not change, but language was added to clarify that these are all P&ED allocations for new 2022 SHOT projects. And we added a link to the book item referencing the adopted 2022 SHOP in case anyone wants to go see that directly. So with that change noted, this item will allocate $197,536,000 for P&ED on 129 new 2022 SHOP projects. Staff has reviewed this allocation request and recommends approval of this item.
Thank you. Do you have any public comment?
No public comment for this item.
Questions? We have a motion. Commissioner Liu moved. Do I have a second? I was going to have to ask for Bueller here in a minute. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 84 is an action item for SHOP construction allocations. As noted on the change list, one of the projects has been withdrawn. Therefore, this item will allocate $61,691,000 for the construction phase of the American River Bridge Construction Manager General Contractor Project. I almost forgot that acronym. In the city of Sacramento. This will be the third early work package to receive an allocation on this project, and the fourth and final work package is expected to be allocated at the March 2023 Commission meeting. Staff has reviewed this allocation request and recommends approval of this item.
No public comment for this item.
Motion to approve Martinez?
Do I have a second?
Second, Grisby.
Frisbee, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, and item 85 is an action item for an advanced allocation of $384,000 in SHOP construction funds for the Bachelor Creek Bridge mitigation project. This project is programmed in the 22-23 fiscal year, and it is requesting an early allocation because it is ready to go now. Staff has reviewed this allocation request and recommends approval of this item.
I do have public comment for this item. We have Patrick Lowe. Patrick, you're now free to comment. Patrick, if you intend to comment, you're free to do so. Okay, I'm going to assume it was a mistake.
Thank you. Any questions from commissioners? Do I have a motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 86, Casey.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tab 86 is an action item requesting to allocate $12,754,000 to two locally administered STIP projects on the state highway system. Staff has reviewed this request and found it consistent with the STIP guidelines and the approved program. Staff recommends your approval.
I see no public comment for this item.
Thank you. Excuse me. Any questions or concerns? Motion?
Motion to approve Martinez?
Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 87.
Tab 87 is an action item requesting to allocate $561,000 to 6 locally administered STIP projects off the state highway system. Staff has reviewed this request and finds it consistent with the STIP guidelines in the approved program. Staff recommends your approval of this item.
I see no public comment for item 87.
Any questions? I will entertain a motion. Do I have a second?
Second Martinez?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 88.
Tab 88 is an action item requesting to advance allocate $664,000 to the Laurel Mountain Road Rehabilitation and Sidewalks STIP project in Mono County. Staff has reviewed this request and finds it consistent with the STIP guidelines and the approved program. Staff recommends your approval of this item.
Thank you.
I see no public comment for this item.
Questions? Do I have a motion?
Move. Second, Falcone.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 89. Christine.
Good morning, Commissioners. Before I present my items, I would just first like to say thank you to everyone for the warm wishes as I start my new journey. Secondly, I would like to thank the CTC professional team that I have worked with for 4 years. It has truly been an amazing journey, and I have learned and grown so much in transportation. I thank you so much. Lastly, I'd like to thank the local and regional transportation agencies for their partnership and their cooperation and collaboration as we shape and molded the local partnership program. So thank you so much.
Christine, we're actually voting on whether you get to leave.
And I didn't get a motion for that.
Thank you so much to all the commissioners. It has been truly wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you.
Tab 89 is an allocation request totaling $4,179,000 in the local partnership formulaic program funds for 3 locally administered projects off the state highway system. $600,000 is requested for the South State Street, Dora Street Rehabilitation Project in Mendocino County, programmed in fiscal year 21-22. $400,000 is requested for the 2022 annual pavement rehabilitation number 4166 project located in Contra Costa County, programmed in fiscal year 21-22. $3,179,000 is requested for the Western Addition Area Traffic Signal Upgrades Project located in San Francisco County, programmed in fiscal year 21-22. Staff has reviewed this request and the item is consistent with the local partnership program guidelines. Staff recommends your approval of tab 89.
I see no public comment for 89.
Thank you. Do we have any comments, questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Grisby? No?
I was just gonna make a motion.
Second Martinez?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I just wanted to read a comment that was received late from Patricia Chen. Christine, thank you for all the great work you did with us at LA Metro. We're very excited for your promotion and hope we cross paths again in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Tab 90. Okay. Tab 90 is an allocation request for $1,724,000 in the local partnership formulaic program funds for a locally administered transit project, the BART Fire Suppression System Upgrade in Alameda County, programmed in fiscal year 2021. Please note on the change list the revision to the program year of 2021 and note of the fiscal year 2021 allocation time extension, which expires August 30th of 2022. Staff has reviewed this request and the items are consistent with the local partnership program guidelines. Staff recommends your approval of tab 90 with the noted changes.
I see no public comment for this item.
Do I have a motion?
Move Falcon.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And thank you again, Christine. Best of luck to you. Item 91, Naveen.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tab 91 is an action item to approve a Cycle 1 Solutions for Congested Corridors program allocation of $3,243,000 for the locally administered Santa Clara Bicycle and Pedestrian Improvements Project segment in Orange County. This is the 6th allocation request for the Greater Orange County Central Corridor Improvements Project, which is programmed for $19,918,000. There are 7 total components that make up this overall project. This request is consistent with the Solutions for Congested Corridors program and guidelines. Therefore, Commission staff recommends your approval of tab 91.
I see no public comment for this item.
Motion to approve Martinez?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 92.
Tab 92 is an action item to approve a Cycle 2 Solutions for Congested Corridors program allocation request of $4,705,000 for the locally administered South Placer Transit Project segment in Placer County. This is the 2nd allocation request for the Greater Placer Sacramento Gateway Project, which is programmed for $67 million. There are 9 total components that make up this overall project. This component is one of the 2 components addressed in the Solutions for Congested Corridors program amendment earlier on in the consent calendar. This request is consistent with the Solutions for Congested Corridors program and guidelines. Therefore, Commission staff recommends your approval of tab 92.
I see no public comment for this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from commissioners? Do we have a motion?
So moved, Christie.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item 93, Kenneth.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tab 93 is an action item. This is an allocation request for $33.6 million in trade corridor enhancement funds for the construction of acceleration and deceleration merge lanes, including intelligent transportation system infrastructure on I-5 in Sacramento County. This will alleviate congestion and improve freight travel time reliability. Staff has reviewed this item and recommends approval.
I see no public comment for this item.
Questions from commissioners? Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve Martinez?
We have a motion from Martinez, second from Lou. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are on 94, I think. Beverly.
Commissioners, tab 94 is an action item to approve allocations of $31,063,000 for 20 active transportation program projects. Please note that this item has changes on the change list. The allocation request for project 14 was withdrawn prior to the commission meeting, so the overall request amount differs from the number of projects, and the number of projects differs from what's indicated on your agenda. Additionally, the right-of-way certification date was added for project 3. Staff has reviewed these requests and finds them consistent with the active transportation program guidelines and the adopted program. Therefore, staff recommends your approval with the changes that are noted on the change list.
Thank you, Beverly. Do we have any public comment?
No public comment for this item.
Questions from commissioners? I will entertain a motion.
So moved, Christie.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Back to you, Beverly, item 95.
Thanks. Commissioners, tab 95 is an action item to approve an allocation of $504,000 for the PA and ED phase for the City of Elk Grove's Laguna Creek Interregional Trail Crossing at State Route 99 Active Transportation Program Project in Sacramento County. Staff has reviewed this request and finds it consistent with the Active Transportation Program guidelines and the adopted program. Therefore, staff recommends approval.
No public comment for this item.
Questions? Have a motion?
Motion to approve. Second, Martinez?
Commissioner Norton made the motion. Commissioner Martinez second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. 96.
Tab 96 is an action item to approve advance allocations of $1,724,000 for 4 active transportation program projects programmed in fiscal year 22-23. Staff has reviewed these requests and finds them consistent with the active transportation program guidelines and the adopted program. Therefore, staff recommends approval.
Do I have public comment?
No public comment for this item.
Questions? Do I have a motion? Vice Chair Gardino moved. Commissioner Liu second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. 97.
Tab 97 is an action item to approve an advance allocation of $260,000 for the right-of-way phase for Placer County's Kings Beach Western Approach Active Transportation Program project, which is programmed in fiscal year 22-23. Staff has reviewed this request and finds it consistent with the Active Transportation Program guidelines and the adopted program. Therefore, staff recommends approval.
No public comment for this item.
Questions? Do I have a motion?
So moved, Grisby.
Commissioner Grisby made the motion. Second, Commissioner Martinez. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Beverly. And we are on 98.
Commissioners, sorry about that. Tab 98 is an action item requesting to allocate $29,603,000 in transit intercity rail capital program funds to 7 projects that were awarded in the 2016, 2018, or 2020 cycle. Staff has reviewed these requests and find them consistent with the transit intercity rail capital program allocation policy and the program update on tab 33. Staff recommends approval.
No public comment on this item.
Questions? Do I have a motion? Commissioner Falcone moved. Commissioner Liu second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We will move on to the time extension requests. Item 99, Casey.
Tab 99 is an action item to extend the project allocation deadline for 6 locally administered state transportation improvement program projects off the state highway system. Staff has reviewed this request and recommends your approval.
No public comment on this item.
Questions? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve Martinez?
Do I have a second? Second, Falcone. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 100.
Tab 100 is an action item to extend the project allocation deadline for the San Onofre to Pulgas Double Track Phase 2 State Transportation Improvement Program rail project in San Diego County. Staff has reviewed this request and recommends your approval.
No public comment on this item.
Questions? Would you like to make a motion in your district? Commissioner Falcone moved. Do I have a second? Norton seconds. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. 101.
Tab 101 is an action item to extend the project allocation deadline for the buses and infrastructure 100 zero emissions buses project 1 state transportation improvement program transit project in Los Angeles County. Staff has reviewed this request and recommends your approval.
No public comment on this item.
Questions? Comments? Commissioner Norton made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second, Grisby.
Commissioner Grisby second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 102.
Commissioners, tab 102 is an action item to consider a project allocation extension for 22 projects in the active transportation program. These requests are consistent with ATP guidelines and staff recommends approval of tab 102 as shown in the time extension table.
Move approval.
Second, Grisby.
Do we have any public comment?
No public comment.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 103.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tab 103 is an action item to approve 1 project allocation deadline time extension request for the multi-funded STIP Local Partnership Competitive Program State Route 99 Commercial Avenue Interchange Project in Tulare County. Staff has reviewed the request and recommends your approval as shown on the time extension table.
I have any public comment?
No public comment on this item.
Thank you. Any questions? Do I have a motion?
So moved, Grisby.
Commissioner Grisby made the motion. Commissioner Liu second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 104.
Tab 104 is an action item to approve 2 project allocation deadline time extension requests for 2 local partnership competitive program projects in Riverside and San Diego counties. Staff has reviewed the request and recommends your approval as shown on the time extension table.
No public comment on this item.
Questions? Do I have a motion? Falcone made the motion. Norton second. Oh. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 105.
Commissioners, tab 105 is an action item to approve a time extension for the Solutions for Congested Corridors program funded BART MacArthur Downtown Oakland Interlock Cabling Upgrade Contract Rail Project located in Alameda County. Approval of this item would extend the period of project allocation of the construction phase of the project for 12 months to June 30th, 2023. This request is consistent with the Solutions for Congested Corridors program and guidelines and the timely use of funds policy. Therefore, Commission staff recommends your approval of tab 105.
No public comment on this item.
Thank you.
So moved, Grisby.
Commissioner Grisby made the motion and Commissioner Martinez second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. 106.
Commissioners, tab 106 is an action item. Caltrans is requesting a 12-month project allocation time extension for an interchange project in Monterey County. Additional time is needed to address coastal development permit issues and to secure mitigation land to obtain permits from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. Staff has reviewed this request and recommends approval.
Move approval.
Vice Chair Gardino made the motion. Do I have a second? Second, Lou. Do we have any public comment?
No public comment.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 107.
Commissioners, tab 107 is an action item. The City of San Diego requests a 12-month time extension to allocate funding for the construction phase of the La Media Road Improvements Project. The extension is requested to complete the permitting process. Due to changes in the definition of waters of the U.S. and changes in the limits of the U.S. Army Corps' jurisdiction, the city must resubmit a new permit application and revise technical reports to meet new requirements. Staff has reviewed this request and recommends approval.
Any public comment?
No public comment on this item.
Thank you. Do I have a motion? Oh, any questions? Do I have a motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 108.
Commissioners, tab 108 is an action item for 2 projects. On the first project, the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments requests a 12-month allocation extension due to delays experienced from redesign requests from the county and review delays by the Union Pacific Railroad and utilities. On the second project, the San Diego Association of Governments requests a 12-month allocation extension to address a previously unknown archaeological site which needs to be excavated and mitigated. The extended deadline would be June 30th, 2023. Staff has reviewed this request and recommends approval.
No public comment on the item.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 109, Cortez.
Tab 109 is an action item to approve time extensions for the period of contract award for 5 shop projects. Staff has reviewed this item and recommends approval.
No public comment on the item.
Motion to approve Martinez?
Do I have a second?
Second,
Second,
Grisby.
Falcone. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 110.
Tab 110 is a request to consider a contract award deadline by 12 months for the Vine Trail Calistoga to St. Helena multi-funded state transportation improvement program and active transportation program project in Napa County. Staff has reviewed this request and finds it consistent with the state transportation improvement program and active transportation program guidelines. Staff recommends your approval.
No public comment on this item.
Questions? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved, Grisby.
Grisby, do I have a second? Second, Lou. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 111.
Naveen.
Or someone else?
Sorry, I was having some issues with my camera. Tab 111 is an action item to approve a multi-funded Solutions for Congested Corridors program and State Transportation Improvement Program time extension for the Highway 1 41st Avenue to Sokol Avenue Auxiliary Lanes Bus on Shoulder and Chanticleer Bike Ped Bridge project located in Santa Cruz County. Approval of this item would extend the period of contract award of the construction phase of the project for 12 months to June 30th, 2023. This request is consistent with the Solutions for Congested Corridors program and guidelines, the STIP and guidelines, and the timely use of funds policy. Therefore, Commission staff recommends your approval of tab 111.
Move approval.
No public comment on the item.
Thank you. Vice Chair Gardino moved. Do I have a second?
Grisby seconds.
Grisby second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 112.
Commissioners, tab 112 is an action item to consider contract award time extensions for 6 projects in the active transportation program. These requests are consistent with the ATP guidelines, and staff recommends approval of tab 112 as shown in the time extension table.
Move approval.
Vice Chair Gardino moved. Commissioner Liu second. Do I have any public comment?
No public comment.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 113. Kayla.
Sorry, I was muted.
There we go.
I will start over. Tab 113 is an action item to approve one contract award deadline time extension request for the local partnership competitive program, 3rd Street, 5th Street Corridor Improvement Project in San Bernardino County. Staff has reviewed the request and recommends your approval as shown on the time extension table.
Do we have any public comment?
I see no public comment for this item.
Any questions? I'll entertain a motion. Second by Falcone. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 114.
Tab 114 is an action item to approve one contract award deadline time extension request for the local partnership formulaic program Veterans Boulevard Interchange and Extension Project Phase 4B in Fresno County. Staff has reviewed the request and recommends your approval as shown on the time extension table.
No public comment for this item.
Do we have any questions? This is the Veterans Boulevard y'all walked out on yesterday. We were out there, yes. Do I have a motion? Do
So move, Grisby.
I have a second?
Second Martinez.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. 115.
Commissioners, tab 115 is an action item. The local agency is requesting a 6-month time extension for the period of contract award from April 2022 to October 2022. The project has experienced delays in awarding the third-party contract due to review of the bid submissions taking longer than expected. With the complexity and scale of the project and the number of bids submitted, staff has reviewed this item and recommends approval.
Public comment?
None for this item.
Motion to approve Martinez?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 116.
Commissioners, tab 116 is an action item. Caltrans requests a 12-month contract award extension for the State Route 55 improvements from I-405 to I-5. Sorry, project in Orange County. The extension in the Trade Corridor Enhancement Program, the State Transportation Improvement Program, and the Local Partnership Program. Staff has reviewed this item and recommends approval.
Do you have public comment?
None for this item. Thank you.
Motion to approve Martinez?
Do I have a second? Second Falcone. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And 17. Monica.
I'm sorry, yeah, my camera is. Tab 117 is a 20-month time extension request to extend the contract award deadline for a transit intercity rail capital program project. Staff has reviewed the request and finds it consistent with the transit intercity rail capital program allocation policy. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you. Any public comment? No, thank you. Questions? Commissioner Liu moved. Do I have a second?
Second, Grisby.
Second, Grisby. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 118, Gertesh.
Tab 118 is an action item to approve time extensions for the period of project completion for 4 SHOP projects. Please note that the change to project 4 as listed on the change list. Staff has reviewed this item and recommends approval.
No
Public
public
comment?
comment.
Thank you. Approved by a motion by Norton. Second? Second by Falcone. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 119.
Tab 119 is an action item for a post-fact time extension request for 2 SHOP projects for the period of project completion. This request is being made as an exception to the SHOP guidelines. Staff has reviewed this item and recommends approval.
No public comment.
Thank you. Questions?
Grisby seconds.
By Grisby, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 120.
Commissioners, tab 120 is an action item to consider project completion time extension for the City of Los Angeles's River Bike Path Headwaters and Owens Mouth Mason Active Transportation Program project. This request is consistent with the ATP guidelines, and staff recommends approval of tab 120 as shown in the time extension table.
No public comment for this item.
Thank you. Any questions? Motion? Motion by Commissioner Liu, second by
Grisby.
Commissioner Grisby. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 121. Kayla.
Commissioners, tab 121 is an action item to approve 1 project completion time extension request for the local partnership formulaic program Smart Rail Maintenance Equipment Expansion Phase 2 project in Sonoma County. Please note the revision to the allocation date in the book item for this request from August 14th, 2021 to August 15th, 2019, as noted on the change list. Staff has reviewed the request and recommends your approval as shown on the time extension table and change list.
Thank you, Kayla.
No public comment for this item.
Questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve Martinez?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 122. Dr. Gertesh.
Tab 122 is an action item to approve time extensions for the period of project development expenditure for 6 SHOP projects. Staff has reviewed this item and recommends approval.
No public comment for this item.
Questions? Do I hear a motion? Do I have a
Grisby
second?
seconds. Grisby.
Grisby, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion carries. 123.
Commissioners, tab 123 is an action item to consider project development expenditure time extensions for 14 projects in the active transportation program. These requests are consistent with the ATP guidelines, and staff recommends approval of tab 123 as shown in the time extension table.
Thank you.
No public comment for this item.
Questions? Do I have a motion?
Grisby moves.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Lou, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 124.
Commissioners, tab 124 is an action item to approve 1 project development expenditure deadline time extension request for the local partnership formulaic program Fort Ord Regional Trail and Greenway Highway 218 segment project in Monterey County. Staff has reviewed the request and recommends your approval as shown on the time extension table.
No public comment for this item.
Move approval.
Vice Chair Gardino moved. Do I have a second? Falcone, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 125.
Tab 125 is an action item to approve 6 project development expenditure deadline time extension requests for 3 local partnership formulaic program projects in Santa Barbara County. Staff has reviewed the request and recommends your approval as shown on the time extension table.
No public comment for this item.
Thank you. Questions? Do I have a motion?
Second.
Second Falcone, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 126.
Commissioners, tab 126 is an action item. The San Diego Association of Governments is requesting a trade corridor enhancement program time extension to extend right-of-way expenditures due to a delay in approximately 26 unresolved right-of-ways acquisitions on the Sorrento to Miramar double track phase 2 project in San Diego County. We continue to work with SANDAG on this and propose that commissioners defer this item to the June commission meeting. A deferment will mean that the request is acknowledged and that the project will not violate timely use of funds policy, allowing the request to be brought back to the commission in June.
Thank you. I understand we have public comment. Ariana? Good morning. Oh, we need to turn her on.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Good morning, Chair Eager, Vice Chair Gardino, and Commissioners. My name is Ariana Zerneden. I'm the Financial Programming Manager at the San Diego Association of Governments, and I just wanted to take a moment to express our gratitude to you and to Commission staff for your willingness to continue working with us to ensure this project's success. This is a critical project not only for the San Diego region, but for the state as a whole, given the importance of the Losan corridor and the fact that it is the second busiest corridor in the nation, and also because it's the only means of reaching San Diego by passenger and freight train. So thank you again. We look forward to continuing to work with your staff and bringing a solution forward for your consideration at your next meeting.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Comment.
One comment.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to underscore appreciation for staff working to make this work. It's a critical extension, so a section of this corridor. So if there's any questions, I want to move
Thank you.
the staff's recommendation to postpone till June.
Thank you so much. Second by Lou. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 127.
Tab 127 is a post-fact request to extend the period of project development expenditures for a transit and intercity rail capital program project. The request is post-fact due to a misunderstanding of how to apply the timely use of funds. The agency has been made aware of the timely use of funds application. Staff has reviewed the request and finds it consistent with the transit and intercity rail capital program allocation policy. Staff recommends approval.
I see no public comment for this item.
Questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Grisby moves.
Thank you. Second? Second by Falcone. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 128. Beverly.
Commissioners, tab 128 is an action item to consider a 14-month project development expenditure time extension for the Transportation Agency for Monterey County's Caltrain Service Improvement Project Phase 3 Traffic Congestion Relief Program Project for the PS&E phase. This request is consistent with the Traffic Congestion Relief Program closeout policy and the SIP guidelines, and staff recommends approval as shown in the time extension table.
I see no public comment for this item.
Thank you. Questions? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve Martinez?
Do I have a second?
Grisby seconds.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are on our last item, 129.
Thank you, Chair Eager. Tab 129 is an action item to approve an amendment to a previously approved time extension. The original request was made for a 12-month extension and is now being amended to be a total of 20 months. This request is being made as an exception to the shop guidelines. Staff has reviewed this item and recommends approval.
I see no public comment for this item.
Questions? I'll entertain a motion. Do I have a second? Second, Falcone. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We will conclude with public comment. We have one, Fernando Elizondo. Or not. Okay, thank you. At this time, Fresno City Councilman Miguel Arias would like to make closing statements for us.
Is that about us messing up your dais up here?
I hope they told you we have ice cream and water in the refrigerator, so you're welcome to it.
Oh, now you tell us.
You know, it is paid for by the city credit card, so you might show up in an audit in the future.
So long as it's under $40, we're all
That's
good.
right. Miguel Arias, I am the Fresno City Councilman for Downtown Fresno, West Fresno, Tower District, and Central Unified. And I have the pleasure and the burden of representing the only council district in our city that's urban, rural, and suburb all in one. I represent the red line district of our city, where racist policies kept everyone in one part of town with no infrastructure, and all the polluted industries were located in the same part of town where Black and brown communities were forced to live. I also represent the oldest part of Fresno that has all the historical assets, from our water tower to big downtown buildings to 200-year-old homes in the area. And I also represent the sprawl part of the city, where leapfrog development occurred thanks to the freeway systems and poor planning in the 1980s that now has us living in a series of bottlenecks to get to the 99. And at the end, what we have is a community in which folks in my district have a 20-year less life expectancy than residents in the same city just north of my district. 20 years they live less because they live in the most polluted part of the country, in West Fresno and South Fresno. And it is with that heavy heart that I speak to you today. One, to thank you for coming to Fresno and doing your work on the commission. And two, just to, impose upon you the important work of, writing and correcting the historical wrongs in our community. Not only did we engage in the 1980s with a lot of expansion of freeways that, built and fueled the sprawl and left many communities behind, but we've also, engaged in the investment and putting huge distribution centers in the most polluted part of the city where the most vulnerable communities live. And but we're also part of that part of California that kept everyone fed, our store shelves full, because a lot of essential workers live in my district. I have distribution centers that contain 5,000 employees, poultry plants that have thousands of employees under one roof, farms that have thousands of farm workers, none of which could Zoom their work during the pandemic. We also experienced by far the largest loss of life during the pandemic in my district. All that to say is those are past, realities, but we're looking to the future, and we're intentionally trying to contain sprawl, to invest in infill development, higher density, to invest in public transit, and to be part of the future of public transportation with high-speed rail in our district, in our city. And that's not easy work. Every day we get a developer asking for another interchange paid for by taxpayers for another development to occur in the fringes of the city. And the hard part is developing in the interior. It's far more expensive. It's a lot less return on the investment. It takes so much longer, but it actually saves lives of those who work, live, and provide for our community. So what I simply ask is that when you do your work across the state and looking at these projects, that you do it through our lens. Some of the most important work we do in the valley is to feed the nation through the crops that we pick and that we harvest, through the poultry plants that we operate. But the most important work for us is raising our kids and protecting our families in doing that important task. And we are at a moment in time where pets in my district now have asthma. where life expectancy and the loss of life is not sufficient enough to convince some that doing the same business as usual, it can longer be done in our communities. Our demographics have shifted. We are now a majority minority council. Our demographics in voters and in residents have shifted, but we've always been here. We're just now in the policy making, the decision making tables that we were excluded from before. So you'll hear some tension, some, potential conflict, but it's because we have such an uphill battle to make up for. We still have too many bottlenecks leading to the 99. We have too many broken, streets. We just got a rude awakening by our public works director that if we continue in the same path with the same funding formulas, with the same strategies of the past, 60% of our $4.5 billion road network will fail by 2031. All while we know that SB1 is a declined revenue source. So locally, we'll be having a very difficult conversation around our own local, transportation measure. Do we continue to apply the strategies of the 1980s in the year 2025? And the answer for us and the council is going to be no. We can't afford it. It's not financially sustainable. It's killing us, and it's killing even our pets. So I ask you to enjoy Fresno. We're doing a lot of great things. It's a lot of movement. We're one of the fastest cities that recovered from the pandemic because we never stopped working during the pandemic. And thanks to our workers and our residents, we've made it out stronger. Downtown is live. It's been stronger than it was in the past. We're looking forward to being a strong partner with high-speed rail and the commission itself. You have a good chair that we blend you from Fresno. And trust me, we have a lot more harder conversations than easy ones, but that is the important work because ultimately our task is to leave our city and our community better than when we received it. And that's what you'll see from Fresno. So thank you for coming, and I hope you do enjoy some ice cream and water on your way out.
Thank you, Councilman. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Well done, madam. Thank you, Councilman.